Empires do not fall in silence. They fall in arrogance. Every great civilization believes it has broken the laws of history. Every great king believes fate does not apply to him. And yet, history waits. Tonight you will witness the story of a king who believed he was untouchable. A ruler who controlled armies, cities, and destiny itself, until a single night erased everything. This is not just history. This is the legend of how immortality dies. He was not born to be a legend. He was forged by conquest. From his first campaign, he proved different from ordinary rulers. He did not inherit greatness. He conquered it. His armies marched faster than any before. His strategies were studied and feared. His name was spoken like a spell across distant lands. Cities opened their gates before he arrived. Kings sent gifts before he demanded tribute. And slowly, something dangerous happened. He began to believe the myths about himself. Legends always begin with a warning. In the deepest halls of his empire, a prophecy circulated. A prophecy that his reign would end in darkness. Not in battle. Not in old age. But in a single night of betrayal and chaos. He laughed. Prophecies were for weak men. History had never defeated him. Why would fate? The night that changed everything began like any other. Music. Wine. Victory speeches. Outside the palace walls, the empire slept peacefully. Inside, the king celebrated himself. He believed no enemy could reach him. He believed loyalty was permanent. He believed destiny had already chosen him as eternal. He was wrong. The first warning came quietly. A servant heard strange noises in the city. A general noticed guards missing from their posts. A messenger arrived breathless from the outer districts. Something was happening. But the king dismissed it. Empires do not fall in whispers. They fall in screams. He returned to his feast. He would soon regret that decision. History rarely announces betrayal with trumpets. It begins in alleyways. In hushed voices. In decisions made when no one believes they are being watched. While the king feasted inside his palace, the city outside began to move. Not as an army. Not as a mob. But as something far more dangerous. A population that had stopped believing. The first fire was insignificant. A single stall. A single spark. But empires do not burn from the first flame. They burn from the second. And the third. Across the city, other fires answered. Storehouses. Guard posts. Supply depots. This was not chaos. It was coordination. Someone had planned this night. The king had ruled through fear, victory, and myth. But loyalty maintained by fear dissolves fastest in darkness. Some guards abandoned their posts. Others pretended not to notice. A few, far more dangerous, opened gates. No speeches were made. No banners raised. Betrayal does not need symbols. Only opportunity. A general finally forced his way into the banquet hall. His armor was unfastened. His voice shaken. The city is no longer under our control. Laughter answered him. The king raised his cup. Cities panic, he said. Empires endure. That sentence sealed his fate. For years, the people had whispered. Tonight they shouted. The myth of the invincible king cracked. And once a myth breaks, it shatters completely. Crowds surged towards symbols of power. Statues were defaced. Banners torn down. The king's image, once sacred, was dragged through the dirt. Empires fall not when armies arrive, but when belief leaves. Only now did the palace grow quiet. The music stopped. The dancers froze. The laughter died. Outside, the sound of the city rose like a storm. The king stood. Not in fear, but in disbelief. How could this happen here? On this night? Under his rule? History had already answered. There is a moment in every fallen ruler's story when denial dies. Not slowly. Not peacefully. But violently. For the king, that moment came not on a battlefield, but inside the walls he believed could never be breached. The first death inside the palace went unnoticed. A single guard. A single blade. A single mistake. Then another. And another. The palace had been designed to keep enemies out. It had never been designed to survive enemies already inside. Loyalty is not tested in victory. It is tested in confusion. Some guards stood their ground. Others lowered their weapons. A few turned them around. No speeches were made. No justifications offered. Steel answered all questions. At first, the screams sounded far away. Almost unreal. Then they grew closer. A scream echoed through the hall. Then another. This was not the sound of rebellion. It was the sound of certainty collapsing. The king felt it then. Not fear. But confusion. The king did what kings always do in crisis. He commanded. Seal the gates. Summon the guard. Secure the inner chambers. But commands require belief. Messengers hesitated. Officers looked to each other. No one moved fast enough. Authority delayed is authority denied. They were never meant to fight an army. They were meant to end a story. Assassins slipped through servant passages. Old routes. Forgotten corridors. Every empire accumulates blind spots. Tonight those blind spots moved. For the first time in years, the king dressed in a hurry. Armor does not feel the same when worn in fear. The metal was heavy. The straps unfamiliar. Power had always protected him before. Tonight it did not fit. In the reflection, he saw something unfamiliar. Not a ruler. Not a conqueror. A man. And men can be killed. That realization struck harder than any blade. Fire spread faster than orders. Curtains ignited. Wooden beams cracked. Smoke swallowed the halls. The palace, symbol of permanence, began to collapse into chaos. The final wound was not physical. It was recognition. A trusted face turned away. An advisor disappeared. Betrayal did not shout. It simply stopped pretending. When power collapses, it does not disappear. It reverses. Those who once commanded begin to ask. Those who once obeyed begin to decide. For the king, the fall did not come with death. It came with escape. The order was whispered, not proclaimed. We must leave. Now. The capital was lost. Not tomorrow. Not by dawn. Now. For the first time in his reign, the king did not argue. Every palace has secrets. Hidden passages built not for glory, but for failure. The king entered a corridor few knew existed. Stones scraped against armor. The empire narrowed to a tunnel. As they moved, the city screamed. Wood cracked. Metal rang. Crowds roared. This was not celebration. It was release. Years of silence escaping at once. The men escorting the king were no longer soldiers. They were individuals. Each step raised the same question. Is he worth dying for now? No oath had prepared them for this. At one point, the king was stopped. Not by an enemy. By a guard. The pause lasted only a breath. But in that breath, history shifted. The king waited. And was allowed to pass. The night air felt foreign. Cold. Uncontrolled. Behind him, his city burned. Not attacked. Abandoned. The king did not look back. The stables were already collapsing. Some horses had fled. Others lay dead. They took what remained. An empire now moved at the speed of fear. A guard fell. No one stopped. The king noticed. He said nothing. Survival had begun to rewrite morality. They were not alone. Someone had seen them. Torches multiplied. Footsteps echoed. The city had decided. Kings are not meant to run. He did. Not toward glory. Not toward battle. Away. Every step stripped another layer of legend away. The gate was closing. Not to protect him. To protect the city from him. For a moment, it did not open. Then, slowly, it did. The king passed through as a refugee. From the hill beyond the walls, he finally looked back. The capital burned like a funeral pyre. Everything he was remained behind those flames. The empire was already history. History does not always kill its villains. Sometimes it leaves them alive, so they can watch their own erasure. The sun rose on a king with no kingdom. No court greeted him. No messengers arrived. No trumpets announced his presence. Only silence. For the first time since his youth, no one needed him. They counted the living. The number was small. Each face told the same story. Escape had been victory enough. No one spoke of returning. In a nearby settlement, the king asked for shelter. The villagers hesitated. His name meant nothing here. Power, once universal, had become regional. And here, it did not exist at all. While he hid, the world reorganized. New rulers claimed legitimacy. New laws replaced old ones. History did not pause for mourning. It advanced. Sleep did not come easily. When it did, it brought fire. Faces of the fallen. The palace collapsing. The moment the gate almost stayed closed. Some defeats echo forever. Others began telling his story. Each version differed. In some, he died fighting. In others, he fled in shame. Truth did not survive the collapse. Legend did. One night, he heard his own name. Spoken by someone who had never seen him. The story was wrong. But it was permanent. Empires are not remembered for how they fall. They are remembered for why. The king understood at last. He had not lost his empire in one night. He had been losing it for years. Time did what armies could not. It simplified. The man disappeared. The lesson remained. Every empire believes it is different. Every ruler believes the rules have changed. They never have. History is patient. And it always collects. Power survives on belief. When belief dies, power follows.